Greetings, members and friends of Williamsburg Baptist Church. My name is Art Wright, and I am delighted to step into the role of senior pastor for your congregation. This past year, I have been serving as theologian in residence for the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship of Virginia. While I've been with them, I've spent a great deal of time blogging and podcasting, especially about what it means to be church in the midst of a pandemic. I've also been teaching, some at Randolph-Macon College in Ashland, and also online for Central Baptist Theological Seminary, which is in Shawnee, Kansas. Before that, I served as Associate Professor of Spirituality and New Testament at the Baptist Theological Seminary at Richmond for 8 years. I have a Master of Divinity degree as well as a PhD in Biblical Studies from Union Presbyterian Seminary. I love wrestling with and engaging Scripture. It is so life-giving, even when the process of interpretation can be so challenging at times. I have long believed, and I continue to believe, that when we read the Bible faithfully and honestly, it can be transformative for us and for the world. Given my scholarly background, I have a number of areas of special interest. I especially enjoy reading the New Testament with an awareness of its Roman imperial context. And you'll no doubt hear that coming out in my sermons from time to time. I've also taught and lectured a great deal on different perspectives on the afterlife throughout Christian history. So I'll be glad to talk to you about that sometime. At Tabernacle Baptist Church, I co-led a series for that congregation on sexuality in Scripture. It was 13 weeks long, so we talked about just about everything there is to talk about related to sexuality. And truth be told, I found myself blushing a fair amount. I'm also especially interested in reading and revisiting what we think of as childhood stories of the Bible. Noah's Ark and Daniel in the Lion's Den and Queen Esther and Zacchaeus and so forth. Reading these texts again as adults and wondering what new insights they might offer us when we read them with adult eyes. I'll give you a hint. We often misremember what those stories say. So all that to say, I'm excited to dig into some of these topics with you all, perhaps a special series once we feel like we can meet safely again for adult education. My wife's name is Beth, and we have been married for almost 14 years now. She grew up in Florida, and her parents still live there. She and I met at a summer camp in the mountains of Bath County, Virginia, back in 2004. The camp is called Camp Alculana, and we were both fresh out of college at the time when we served as co-counselors. We met that summer, and then Beth went to Boston University to pursue her master's degree in social work. And so we dated long distance for 2 years until she moved to Richmond and we got engaged and married. Several years after that, she actually became the director of Camp Alculana, and we feel like the story has come full circle, so to speak. She's been there for nearly 12 years now. We have 2 young children. Julian is 8 and Adrian is nearly 4. They are both delightful and energetic and full of life in most every way imaginable. They are both at home full-time right now because of the pandemic, and so Beth and I are juggling working from home and parenting responsibilities for the last 8 months or so. It's been exhausting in many regards. I've heard so many parents say that during this season, but we are hanging in there. It has surely been a hard season, but it's also been a season full of goodness and lots of silver linings. The 4 of us have been attending Tabernacle Baptist Church in Richmond for several years now, up until the pandemic, and my wife and I currently hold our church membership there until we transfer it to here. While we were there, I served as Minister of Spiritual Formation for 3 years, and I also served on the deacon board and even served as deacon chair for a season. Tabernacle has been a wonderful congregation for us to call home. They have nurtured us as a family in so many ways, in life and in faith. And we see this transition from there to here not as a chance to sever ties, but as an opportunity to build bridges between these two congregations. I first got to know Williamsburg Baptist Church when Fran Milam reached out in March or April about the possibility of me preaching virtually for 3 Sundays for you all after Easter. I had no idea at all at that time what would come next, and my hunch is that you didn't either. God indeed works in mysterious ways. Since preaching for you all during the Easter season, I have come on board as your interim pastor, and now find myself moving into the role of full-time senior pastor for the congregation. I see my role right now as shepherd, first and foremost. I am trying to get to know you all in this strange season of pandemic, and I have to admit it's a strange time to begin work as a pastor in what is such a relational job. I am struggling, for example, to connect faces and names when most of the time we're wearing masks. And we aren't gathering for large groups at all for worship right now, so I haven't met a lot of you face to face yet. But my hunch is that we will. Churches these last 8 or 9 months have faced some of the toughest challenges we have seen in our lifetimes. The pandemic has disrupted life in most every way imaginable, and we know that it's going to shape our daily lives for months, if not years to come. As Williamsburg Baptist has grappled with what it means to be church in the midst of pandemic, we have found ourselves grappling with the tension that so many churches feel right now between our desire to worship in person and gather together on the one hand, and on the other hand, our desire to keep one another safe because we so desperately care about and love one another. We naturally want to gather together because so much of what it means to be church is to be part of a community of faith, to worship and fellowship and serve together. I think it's helpful to acknowledge and lean into this tension as we wrestle with what it means to move forward as a congregation. Some of us are desperate to come back to the building for worship, and some of us have no desire at all to be here in the building while the pandemic continues to rage, probably until we have vaccines available. As we wrestle with what it means to be church right now, we acknowledge that we aren't all on the same page, and that's okay. I am confident that God is guiding us through this season, and I'd encourage you in the days and weeks ahead to look for quiet moments of stillness, to pray and reflect on how God is leading you and us right now. I think it's going to be a long, hard winter in many senses, but I believe that we have a lot of reasons to be hopeful and optimistic for the season and for the year ahead. If we haven't met yet, I'd love to hear from you. Email me or call the church office and we'll find a way to connect, whether we can do it safely in person or via Zoom or a phone call or Facebook or Instagram. Know that I am excited to be a part of your congregation. I'm so grateful for your trust in me. And I would ask that you please pray for me as I discern how best to serve among you in the weeks and months ahead. And likewise, I promise to be praying for you all as we figure this all out together, as we pay attention to where God is leading us together. I have no doubt that one day we'll look back and be amazed at how far God has brought us. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Take care and God bless.